Dave, if you don't mind, I'm going to hand over to you. So you can see that at the moment, Dave's got a floor plan open. So we're just going to use a standard convention center that we have loaded into the system. So this convention center has got all the standard, the equipment, the layers that relate to the venue, and all the smart shapes that you can see on the left. So David, I'm just going to pass it over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Jay. So what I'll first begin with is just setting up a conference, say for round tables. So let me just drag out a banquet table here. Now, currently, the way we were copying these tables, we've got a couple of methods. Number one is you could just purely use the copy arrows up the top here. So I'm just going to copy these across. And we can grab those and copy those down. Oops.
Put those to the left.
Sorry, that was my wrong mouse one there. Okay, so we're just going to copy these ones down.
Great. You can also use the quantity tool when you're creating those quantities. So what David's just done there is very much a standardized type of layout. But if you go through to the quantity option, you can then just choose, which I'm sure everyone here has done. We just choose 5 and it'll copy down. Now, that will copy it with the correct distance. So we're going to talk about those distances even further. But Dave, I'll just hand back to you about some of the new methods that we're doing to create the layouts.
Sure. If we click this table and we go to modify table, you'll see on the right-hand side where we can adjust this. So this is where you could enter, say, let's go 1.8. And we'll go 1.8 here as well. So this is just another method where you can set the distance between the tables. Now, when I go copyright, and I had 5 selected up here. So that's now moved that across 1.8 meters between each table there. If I just go back here and just click one there, I can just copy down and do the same thing this way. So that's the method that we currently have, and you guys have probably been using that. What I'd like to show you now is a totally new feature. So if we go back and we select this table, by holding down the Shift key, and then left clicking your mouse and dragging along the plan, you'll see how these now can be copied. So as I'm dragging these out, I'm going pretty slow just to sort of so you can see down the bottom as well. I've got 8 rows by 5 and there's 40 shapes. So if I let go of the mouse, you'll see how they are created. So let me just do that again, just to show you the speed of that. So
yeah, we might do that a couple of times, David, because this is actually quite a new method. Now, for those that obviously using EventDraw, that this method hasn't been available. This method is now available since the last update. So what this method allows you to do, exactly as you can see there, you can take that up slowly, or you can take it up at to be honest, a rapid rate of knots. So if you then, let's just say, we'll keep these tables on the plan, but if you use, say, a theatre style chair or whatever it may be, you could drag on 10,000 chairs in under half a second. So it's now that fast to do the layouts. Now, what that will do is that what David was showing there, it's still allowing the correct distances between table. So if you have a look at your keyboard, we're going to do it once more. You've got the control key down the bottom corner. So we're not going to be using that. We're actually going to use the shift. So if you hold down the shift, as we're doing right now, and all you do is draw a rectangle in the area you want to drop those tables in. Now, this can be tables, chairs, whatever equipment, exhibition booths. Now, once you've set the location, simply let go of the mouse, and there it is there. So that alone is a tremendously beneficial time-saving solution, just that first update that we're going to show you now. Dave, I'll just get you to keep going on that plan.
Sure. So now let me just demonstrate that as a theatre style as well. So I can let me just remove some of these tables here, and I'll bring out a banquet chair, and exactly like we did before, Shift key, and we can just very quickly and easily create rows of chairs. I might even just come back in here and delete to give us an aisleway, and we can add a couple more chairs if we need to sort of balance that out on the left as well. So very quickly, we can create these banks of chairs and theatre style just by clicking and dragging the mouse here. Similar to what we did, if I click on a chair, you'll see on the right-hand side, these are the distances so far that we're using. So that's what it's choosing as we copy those chairs there. So if we take it just a step further, let me just drag one out again. I can add another step to this. If I just do one bank here and I say I want, okay, 144. Okay, so that's one bank. And then I want to copy that over to create another bank, say 2 meters, and leave a 2 meter aisleway. I can come up to here. I can put two, and obviously I've got meters selected here. And then when I do copyright, that has now left me a 2 meter aisleway. So as you can see, it's really quick to start setting these up.
So that's very handy if you're doing exhibitions, or exactly what David's just doing now, even if it's just a theatre style plan. So if it's exhibition equipment, so you can see the exhibition equipment or any items in your shape. So if you then just reset that distance, you can keep copying across, knowing that you've allowed the correct space, or it could be an aisle, or it could be just, you know, whatever the distance need to be. So it'll take that into account and build that into place.
So what I might just quickly show you, let me just bring these down here. While this is selected, we can go through now and number these. So let me just select all these. I'll go up to numbering, theatre style numbering, and I can start from 1. I can skip numbers if I wish. I can include row letters, which I will, and I might want to skip a row letter. Let's skip O. And we will choose down here which way we want to go. So let's go left to right. And that has now given us numbering with the row letters coming down the bottom there. If, for example, we wanted to, say, remove that row there and that row there, we can select the whole thing again, and exactly what we did before, just renumber those. And that's now renumber those accordingly.
Yep.
Which is very similar to what we can do up here as well. So if we just quickly grab those, and I'm just going to bring those down like so. We can select all these, and now we'll just select the other option, which is table numbering, which we've got skip numbers here. We might skip number 3. And as we come along the bottom here, you'll see how this shows which way our numbering is going to go. I'm just going to choose the first one, and now we've gone through and numbered those as well. So that's a very quick way of numbering both theatre style and also banquet tables. What another feature that you may not have seen as yet is using our table designer. So if we were to click the modify table, on the right up here on this tab you see designer. So what this allows users to do is create their own furniture. We can do a round table, a rectangular table, or an oval table. Let's first start with a round. And I'm just going to make this, say, a 2.4 meter round. The maximum number of chairs that I'm going to allow is going to be, say, 14. But as a default, I'm going to have, say, 12. From here as well, if you wanted to preset, say, a cabaret arrangement, I'll just bring down the number of chairs here. As you can see, that's now giving us a cabaret style, if that's what's a default that you wanted to do. And we can also change the various spacing of that cabaret as well. For this particular example though, let me just take off the cabaret, and I'm just going to do our 10, and I'm just going to hit create. So that's now created a table for us. Now, obviously you can use that table and it works. If I go back to tables info, you'll see how we can still change any of these chairs. We might do 8. However, you can see how the 14, it only allows us to do 14 maximum because that's what we selected in our maximum chairs before. So that saves sort of any of your users making sure they stick within the table requirements. Now let's take that a step further. It's all well and good to have your table, but how about we save those to our favorites? So now that we've got our new table, let's just click and drag this to our favorites. And let's just give it a name. It automatically works out as a 2.4, but let's just call it, just in case it's a friendly name, you might call them large banquet table in your venue. We want it to show on the inventory list, and we'll go okay. So now down the bottom, it's sitting on this favorites that we can use forever. So you can go through and create at any time your tables that may not be in the list of that come with the system, and we can go through and create whatever we like in this example here.
And that goes even further. So for this standard table, if you wanted to choose how many chairs are each end of the table, how many are at the top of the bottom, and same with even the chair position of number one, which is quite important because different venues have different requirements for where chair position one is seated around the table. So as you can see there, you can simply make that change, click on the create button, and there you go. And it'll create that in to the floor plan, as you can see.
Great.
We might just, Dave, just quickly cover off. We might just click on one of those tables and check on the colouring of the table or the chair.
Sure. So what we can do, let's let me just remove these for the moment.
Could be just a VIP chair or chairs.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I can do is I can click on down the bottom here, this change table and chair color, and I might make that, say that color there. And as you can see, we can go through and color these individual chairs how we like. You may find that you've already set up all your tables. Let's just do that. Okay, so you can do these more than one as well, multiple. So every chair number 3, we want to be, say, a yellow color. And it's gone through now and given us that yellow color there, for example.
Perfect, which probably leads into further for what you're doing there to start to look at inventory reports and start to show some of the probably the more dynamic flexibility that people may not be aware of with inventory reports.
Sure, absolutely. So what we've got in the system here, if we click this button just under the report, inventory report here, this gives us a snapshot of all the items that are currently sitting on this plan. If I were to only select, say, these chairs here, it will just tell me that I've got 135 chairs selected. And if I were to individually go through and select these items here, for example, as well, it would go through and tell me that I've also got 12 tables selected.
It'll also show the total number of chairs required, because for this event we're using, we assume, banquet chairs, and we're going to be using the same chairs around the tables as well. So it's quite important that if you select all those items, I'll get you to reselect, and down the bottom, you will start to see, and we'll just click some of the chairs at the top. So you'll start to see it tells us the individual items selected in the report, but also the total chairs required for that exact event, which is 390 chairs. And what's coming as well is, for example, this can be assigned to cost of goods and sale price and things like that. So there's some really amazing features coming over the next 30 days as well that will be preloaded or automatically set up into the EventDraw system. Once you log in, you'll be presented with what we call a bulletin board, and that bulletin board will give you a quick video on the new features that is now available in your subscription. So Dave, what we might just do is show them just on picking up items from an inventory report as well, because a lot of our clients will do outdoor plans, and those outdoor plans can have different equipment in different locations. So it's very easy to go into your inventory report and you can select those items. You can simply double click on the item, and then what it'll do is that it will tell you where that item is in the room and pick up that item. So we've just got some cocktail tables here that we're just dragging into the space. So if we look at the report on the right, you can see we've got a cocktail table. If we just double click on it, this is an active element in the report. So it'll pull up all those cocktails, and we won't do it, but if you needed to change the color or design or whatever it may be, you can simply go through and do that in one go. So the way that you do that is if you deselect, it shows you the full report, everything that's on the floor plan. Just simply double click any of the items and it'll pick it up within that dynamic report. So there is some things in reports that we understand that people are not aware of. I think also you can see in the report here, we won't do it, but you can just click the copy report, which will drag the floor plan, the report onto the plan, or can export it out. But there is a couple of things that we noticed in this morning's session, and we're going to revisit some old favorites. So we're going to start with aligning and spacing, which is actually quite a common question asked. So we'll use these tables at the top. So what we're going to do is we're really going to randomize the positioning of these tables. We assume that we've got a floor plan. It's not correct. It looks incorrect, but the first thing we want to do is get those tables re-spaced and realigned. So you select all the objects that you want to work with. And if you go into the toolbar, you will notice that we've got the align and space. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to align across the page, because these shapes are going across the page. The other thing that we can do, actually, these are quite evenly spaced. Let's just take one right out. There we go. That'll do. So if we now take all those objects, and if we just go space, it's now going to re-space those objects across the page. Now you can click copy down. So what it does is that you've now done that aligning and spacing. It's now back in order. That's very similar. You could do that with any equipment if you wanted to do it with your theatre style chairs down the bottom. Let's just say you can see we've left an aisle in that top row. I could select all the top row of those chairs, and we can just re-space them across. So we simply take all the elements that we want. We go up to the spacing, align and space, and we're just going to re-space across. And as you can see, we've then re-spaced those accordingly. So there was a couple of questions this morning along those lines, and same with items to bring the front and send the back. So that's simply a matter, if you've got an object on a floor plan and you wanted to take an object and put it on top or below the object, you simply go through and you'll see that there is a button here to send it to the front or bring it to the back. So simply drop that box down, and we're just going to push that to the back, and it's going to place it underneath the object. Grouping very, very easily. I could just take this whole stage piece. What we'll do is we'll group that all together. So I just put my cursor through all the elements. They are individual. We are now going to put as one element. So we just go up to grouping, and we group it together. So now all the elements can be moved in one piece. And that's something that you might just do a stage piece, or you could do a full floor plan and you want to group it all together. So just a couple of other old favorites that we call it. And Dave, I might get you to just create some shapes and use the size and position to adjust it.
Sure. So what this will allow you to do, so let's just add a shape to the plan. We're just going to do our own rectangle, and I'll bring this up here. Now this could be something that you need to use as a particular space, or you could simulate, the position, how much space the band needs, or a certain area. So by coming up to size and position, we now want to create a space that is 10 meters by 5 meters. Okay, and that's how we can quite easily create the space, and it's because it's all to scale, it's using the correct dimensions, and you can now comfortably understand that wherever you put that space, that's going to be the exact dimensions of that area.
We might take that object. You can see that if you decrease or increase the size, it'll show you dynamically exactly the size of those items. And that is actually a little reminder for me to come back at the end of this webinar to talk about the units of measure. So we'll talk about that. But while we're there, we are just going to briefly touch on layers as well. So we've got some objects that David's created, or a object. And David, I might just get you to run through some layers and some of the features of layers.
Absolutely. With this particular plan, there has been existing layers set up. So for example, we've got roof heights. Okay, so that's all been set up there. We've also got various partitions. So if we were to click on these in this particular room here, these are the two partitions that belong there. And we just go through and turn these off. Things like projectors. So we've just added those two projectors that are on a layer. We've got a whole lot of dimension lines as well. So if you wanted to open this plan just as a blank plan, but just show your dimensions, and you can PDF that to a client. And whatever other layers you would like. In this case, we've also got some audio and some power outlets as well. So the way we can manipulate these further and to create your own, I'm just going to turn a couple of these off, is let's say that we wanted these items here. Now, what we might do, these could be exhibition booths or something within your venue there. Firstly, while I've got them there, let me just space these out correctly. So I might just say leave 2 meters, and there's 2 meters between each one. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a new layer by hitting the plus button, double clicking, and these are going to be expo booths, and we'll go rename. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these. I'm going to click the move selection to and put them on the expo booth layer. What that allows me to do now is that allows me to manipulate this layer. So I can now turn that on and off. I can also lock that layer, and that will prevent me from deleting or moving that layer there as well. So layers are very powerful. You can store a lot of data on these layers, and that's a very quick way of showing you how to produce those.
We find that layers is very helpful for some of our larger clients that are working in convention centers that might have retractable seating, and that retractable seating can be set up on layers, or it can actually be individually dragged in and out if it takes up a percentage or a certain space within the room. But I think, Dave, what we might do is we just might flick across, and we're just going to quickly show you how 3D works.
Sure.
So let's...
So here we have a, this is actually a separated space from the overall. This is this area here, but we've separated into its own plan. And what we can do here is we can just simply click the 3D scene button. This is now generating the 3D scene for this particular floor plan. And this is what it's produced. As you can see, it's very fast how it rendered all those items. We can zoom in, we can move around the plan quite easily. There's also some very cool functions within this. So for example, if I wanted just to make the background black, I can do that.
So we can just change the ambient lighting of the scene itself. You have more flexibility to change through the scene lighting further in those tabs down the bottom. But one of the ones also is that if we start to look at, we give the 3D gives you the flexibility of an amazing a viewpoint, but it's very, very easy to use. So David's just got the next tab down, which is he's going to start to work with a few things. So the first one, Dave, if we can just start to show maybe the wall height, let's just increase the wall height just a little bit. So we're just going to bring that up. Reason that we're doing that is we're now going to drop. So let's just say you've got a client and you want to drop in a show reel. So you can just upload one. So we've got a video here. And Dave, if you just want to place that on the back wall. So as you can see there, now we can go down the bottom left and just increase the size. Sorry, I might just, that's all right. If you just click on, no, that's all right. So what we can do is that we've just taken another video here. So we can go through and actually increase the size of the video as well. So if you can see here, whoops, I think it's just, we can just start to change the video size, and it'll snap against the walls as well. Now, this is the same with if you've got a client logo, or if you have a client logo, for example, is a good example. I think we've got an image here that you can throw onto the back wall. So if you wanted to have a 3D scene and have a show reel playing, or have a logo on the back wall, or even just on the projector screen, you have the flexibility to do that. You've also got the first person walkthrough view, which is in the top right. So if you click on, you'll see a little icon representing a human. As you can see, you can go through and it'll take you to the center of the room. As you can see, this is quite a fortunate view because it has the video running in the background. Now, this link that you send to clients, there is no need for any subscriptions. There's no need for any logins. They don't need anything on their computer. You simply send them the link and they can do exactly what we're doing here. So they can't remove or change tables and chairs, but they can zoom in and out. So we'll just go to the top down view, and this is pretty much it'll start off at kind of like a 45-degree angle when they first see it. And all we're doing to rotate around this plan, I'll just zoom in a little bit, is we are just scrolling the mouse wheel in and out, and then we're just moving our mouse to pan around the plan. So there is more functionality with 3D. You'll see down the bottom corner, you can save it as a JPEG or a PDF or whichever format that you want. You can share a live link. And there is more flexibility on the right-hand side. You'll start to see we've got the bottom right, which is the scene icon. That's where it'll just, we're just saving that. So the scene icon, which is just there. Yep, down a bit. Oops, sorry, my mouse is just running a bit slow. This is where you can change more the dynamic parameters of the scene, the lighting, and things like that. So this is something that there's nothing you can break. You can just go through and change all the parameters and any changes that you need to do in 3D. It's really easy to do, and it's easy for any user or client to have a look at the 3D scene and navigate through. So while we're on that, we're also going to go back to the 2D floor plan, and we're going to show you a feature that you'll see coming up on EventDraw, which is guest allocations. So David, I'm going to get you to flick across to and hit the button that's in the center of the screen. It actually says guest allocations. It will be on your toolbar in the coming weeks. You'll see that button as soon as you log in. And this is exactly what you're going to be able to do with that button.
Sure. So once you click guest allocations, as you can see, we've preloaded a number of guests down here. You can manually go through and add a guest. So if I just quickly put in, okay, and we can then go through and select, as I go through each table, it will tell me who's already sitting on those particular spaces, those particular seats, and I can just go through and decide where I want this person to sit. Another great feature too is you can go through and select whether it's an adult or child or some other predefined categories here, which the user can also set up for themselves. And the big one here is the dietary requirement. So we can add a dietary, again, from a pre-existing, or we can also add a new one as well. So let's just go up here and just put no seafood, and we'll give that a color of that, and we'll save that. So now we've created that category, we can select those, and we can put that for that particular person if we now save that for Bob Brown. There's also an option here that we can import a particular spreadsheet, which we can go through now and then map the fields depending on what your spreadsheet has.
That's a really handy tool, because you will, we know a lot of venues work with clients and they'll just simply send a spreadsheet through on who's coming to the event and so forth. So you'll be able to import that spreadsheet directly that the client sends you.
Absolutely. They'll save a lot of time in manually doing that. We can also go through and we'll go to the next tab, which is the share tab. And this is where we can put a name in, and we can also set a date for a submission deadline. That could be depending on how you set your standards up there with it could be 3 days before the event or a week before the event. And we can also password protect that as well. So what this is doing is setting up the link where we would send this to, say, the bride and groom, where they would do all their own allocations. So by clicking that, we are now able to copy that link, which we would, send in an email to, say, the client, and then they would get a similar window like you see here, but obviously they can't move the tables or chairs. They can only add and remove guests, and that allows them to do that.
The share link is simply just a floor plan. There is no functionality for the client, as David said, to do anything. There's no toolbars at the top. There's no shapes on the left. So they can't take your beautiful plan and start moving in more tables than what actually can be done within the venue. they can simply click on a table and start to do exactly what David's just done there by assigning guests to seats, which might lead us into some of the print functionality.
Sure. And these are just some various print options, which we can go through. Guest list alphabetical by table. You can add some dietary requirements to that report as well. Might be something that you'd put in the kitchen, for example, for the kitchen staff to know, or the waiter staff to actually know also where they're going to be seating the people, and not seating, but saying, yeah, where they're going to be showing the dietary and things like that. And that moves us over to the summary, which is also a very handy feature where we can click this down and we can see from a glance on which tables. In this case, we've still got a lot of allocations to do. So this, for example, only 20% of table 23 has been filled, and so forth and so forth. We can go down to seating types, and again, that's another similar one that gives you at a glance of the different seating types there. And this is a very good one as well, which shows us the gluten-free or the different dietary where people are sitting and what position they're sitting as well at that table, which allows you to double click that and it takes you to the actual person, and you can see them there as well.
It's probably a good area to look at. If we look at this floor plan, that's a pretty confined floor plan. So one of the questions has been about this COVID distancing. So if we selected these tables, we can go and we can do two options. So we can right click on these objects and we can change the spacing. So what we will do, let's assume that this is a new COVID distancing parameter. So let's just put in, say, 2.5 meters. Now, if you're working in feet and inches, it's exactly the same. You just type whichever units of measure you work with. So we type in 2.5 and we hit apply, and that'll respace those. But what this will do, so you can start to see at those distances, this is going to be very difficult. So I can right click and do exactly the same, but I can also choose the option to go between the back of the chair. So let's just say we're going to have, I don't know, 70 centimeters, or we'll say 0.7 of a meter. So we just type in 0.7 over 0.7 again. It's the back of the chair this time. So we hit apply. So that's now allowing 70 centimeters gaps between the chairs of one table to the chair of the next table. So it's very easy once you start to do COVID distancing and these distances change. You can just take an existing floor plan, select all the elements on the plan that, that the tables or the chairs, and you can simply respace those. And it's the same as what's going to happen here with a banquet chair. So what we might do is use the create a quick row, and we'll just copy those down. Now, all you do is select all the objects. We're going to go back into change spacing, and we'll just put in a new distance. Perfect. And there it is there. So it's automatically done. It's always a really good visualization to see that once we start to do these COVID distance requirements, there's certainly far less that can be fit into a space than what we traditionally could do before. So COVID distancing definitely is a great tool. We're going to quickly show you what we call Wall Builder. So Wall Builder is, we can, on this left side of the room, actually we'll leave that there. So, yeah, that'll do. So if you go into extras, you have a tool for, if you look down, you will start to see Wall Builder. So if I just click on that, so I can simply, let's just say we've got this venue and we're building another space. Let's just say they've built a little outdoor gazebo area or space or deck. We can go through and then we can add on to the building itself. So we can just go through to the left and that's it there. So this Wall Builder is also, everything that you do 2D is also 3D. So if I click on the 3D scene, what it's done is that it'll take that wall that we've built. So it'll represent it in 2D, but it also, everything that you do will, if you'd like the 3D option, as you can see, it's there in 3D as well. So Wall Builder is one of those tools that people are asking about, saying, oh, look, we've got a small hallway area, or there's a small, even, there's a closet in the space or outside the space. We want to show that and represent it. So you can go through and just create your own elements onto the floor plan. but the base CADs itself would generally be adjusted by us. But that's another tool where people have been asking, how do we just add some additional elements onto the floor plan if we need be? So we're going to go back to the two there. There's a couple of items that we are going to talk about. One is saving floor plans. So this is a very common question. So what happens with saving floor plans is that in Chrome and Internet Explorer, you do need to make an adjustment within the browser. And to do that, we go to the top right-hand corner. Now we have a separate video on this on its own, but you'll go into the settings button. So you'll see we've clicked on the three dots. We're in Google Chrome. We've clicked on the three dots. We've hit the button called settings, and we're just going to type in save. Now, if we scroll, there it is there. It's this blue slider down the bottom. And we ask anyone that is watching this video or the recording of it, absolutely to make sure this is turned on. What that does is that every time that you save a floor plan, it'll ask you where to save it on your computer. And you can also change the defaults where you want to save it. Maybe it's Dropbox, maybe it's Google Drive, maybe it's somewhere on your network drive. But as soon as you save a floor plan and the PDF as well, it'll prompt you and ask you. So I'll give you a quick example. We'll go back to the floor plan. If we click on the save button, you can see here we've got to my PC. And as soon as I click that, you can see it's got the Windows dialog box. It'll do the same with a Mac as well. It'll give you the location or where you actually want to save the floor plan. And again, it's the same with the PDF as well. So we strongly suggest that you turn this on because it is a very handy tool. If it's not on, sometimes you'll save a floor plan, it'll automatically default to your downloads folder and you won't even know it's gone to your downloads. The other one we're going to just quickly touch on is units of measure. So we have a very even split between people that use meters and people that use feet and inches. At the top of the toolbar next to the save button, you have the settings button. So it's as you log in, you've got the blue save button. Just to the right, you'll have the settings button. If you click this, you have the option to change it from meters to feet, or you can choose both. So if we choose both, for example, and we just drag out a dimension line on the floor plan, let's just show you what that does. You'll see that if I zoom in, the units of measure will show it in meters and also in feet. So we generally only, for example, we work with meters, so we only need to show meters. But once you go into the settings, now this is a global setting, so you don't need to change it every time that you log in. It'll remember it as per your preference, and it'll make that change accordingly. So with these webinars, these are going to be giving you information that the new features that are coming out through our programming team, and also the new features that you'll be seeing added on EventDraw. As we mentioned earlier on, there is a new bulletin board that is coming out. Now, what that will be is that when you log into EventDraw, you'll be presented with essentially a bulletin board, and it's going to be just a little bit of information and a video on what has been the new modules that have been added into the software. So most of the bulletin boards, the videos only go for, maybe a maximum of 15, 30 seconds. It's very fast, very quick. But whatever you see in the video will then be applied into the program as well. So you can watch the video straight away, start to do whatever new feature that you've seen on the bulletin board. So we want to make sure that everyone uses the latest features that is available in the system. We have another webinar coming up as well. We have more updates the EventDraw updates are now released monthly. It's not a matter of one or two updates. We generally release around about, I think last month, the updates were around, I think it was around 10, 11, or maybe 12 updates. So each month, the updates that take place, they're not small updates, but they always make life really fast and efficient when you want to create the floor plans. So we strongly suggest that you keep an eye out on those. The bulletin board will certainly give you the information on that, but we want to, I think there from Dave, we've probably covered most items for this current webinar to give you some of the new tips and tricks and how to do how to make the process faster when you're creating an event floor plan. So we want to thank everyone for joining. For those that have registered to receive the recording, you receive the recording within the next hour. And we'd like to thank everyone for attending. And David, thank you for going through the new features. And we look forward to chatting with everyone very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.